All right, welcome to this week's episode of Crushing Land. I'm really excited to be doing this live interview with Jonathan here today, getting to know him better myself and also helping you guys to get to know him better too. I'm going to be asking him some questions about him as the co-owner of the land method, how he got into real estate, but I'm also going to ask him some questions that are more on a personal level so that we can get to know him more personally. We've got a lot of questions prepared for him, but if you have any questions at all, please put them in the chat. We will be monitoring it. We're going to make sure that all of your questions get answered at the end of the episode. So let's get into it. How are you doing today, Jonathan?
Great, as always.
Awesome. Well, let's just jump into it.
You know me well enough to know I'm always like bubbly and happy and energetic. So
yeah, I know. I just like to start off that way. All right. So where are you from and what was life like as a kid?
From Connecticut originally, grew up in New England, born and raised there. Pretty normal upbringing. I don't have one of the I call it sob guru stories. All these guys out there they're teaching all seem to have came from nothing. Every one of them, Greg, they had the worst upbringing ever and had $6 left in the bank and all of that. And I had a pretty normal, grew up with both parents. Just I have two older siblings, so I never really grew up with them. They were out of the house before I started growing up. So kind of raised like an only child. Yeah, just kind of middle class, normal living, ranch house for the 80s, normal style. And just nice. Life was pretty normal for the first, 16 years of my life.
Yeah. So at 16, you said the first 16 years of your life was pretty normal. What was the most difficult thing that you had to go through and how did you overcome it?
Yeah. So like I said, my life was pretty normal till I was 16. My mom got sick when I was 16, got cancer. She passed away. Actually, she got sick when I was 15. She passed away just a little shortly after I turned 16, just a few months later.
Oh, wow.
So I don't think something like that is something anybody actually gets through or over. You just got to kind of plow through and adjust moving forward. So my grandfather was a huge help to me at that point. I had a good relationship with him and he was awesome. Basically was just checking in with me and taking me under his wings like each and every day. So that really, really made a big difference. Unfortunately, he passed away a couple of years later, and that actually was even harder on me because at that point, now I'm 18 and life just felt kind of empty and alone. And I would say the years that followed that, the next 3-4 years were probably beside being 18 and just a stupid 18-year-old like everybody is, adding that in just led to some bad decision making and just everything in general.
Yeah. So it's good to hear from you on that. For those who have just gotten on, as we continue to go through this, if you have any questions, make sure to drop them in the comments so that we can answer them at the end of the session here. So kind of more going into real estate after all of that, how did you get into it and why did you get into real estate?
So my father was a real estate agent, basically on and off, always was a real estate agent, but did it full time and then had other businesses and was always doing different stuff in it, the whole time I was growing up. And so I was always around it. I went to trade school. I took carpentry, was building homes after. I worked with my brother. Like I said, my brother was quite a bit older than me. So we already had established running business, well before I got out of high school. And so I started working with him. And one of the things that he did was he bought a piece of land, built a house on it, spec home, and did that. And, we were doing this project and I'm like, man, this is better money than building these custom homes for other people. It's like, so it kind of piqued my attention. The investment side piqued my attention really early on from that. And I had seen a couple of things that my dad did. And so real estate was always something that was of interest to me. And so right around that time, early 20s, I went to real estate school, just got a real estate license to kind of get into, that that arena a little bit. Not something I needed to do, but at that point in my life, not really knowing, it just seemed like a good decision, and it did kind of open the door for future things that came.
Mhm. At that point, were you already in Florida, or did you get that license up in Connecticut?
Yeah, I was in Connecticut. So I moved to Florida when I was 24, I guess. So at this point, I was 20 or 21. I'm not 100% sure on that, but maybe even younger, actually. I graduated when I was 17. So it may have been 18 or 19
Okay.
that I went into that in Connecticut.
Okay, cool. So out of all the different areas of real estate that you have been invested in, why did you solely choose to focus on investing in land specifically?
A couple different things led to it. So I started with brokerage, like I said, or sales, and then got a broker's license. When I moved to Florida, I got my broker's license and was focusing on a few different things, and basically was listing for other people and had some investors and kind of seeing them make all the money in it. And so with that being said, I decided, well, let's shift gears and get into investments ourselves. That was right around the time where the market shifted, 2008, the big crash. And so when all that happened, we had to shift, and we were in short sale. We started doing short sale flips and REO flips, and we before that we had done some stuff with lease options on properties and getting them under selling them with lease options, and all of that kind of just kept shifting. The lease option thing just went away because the property values tanked. So what people were paying, it wasn't even worth it. Like they were never going to exercise. In fact, a lot of people just walked away. And so when we got into the short sales and the REOs, that was just something that was happening. But then that got regulated insanely. The banks kind of came in and like redid everything, and the competition went through the roof at the same time for that. And so we just kind of, my father had always done some stuff with land. He had done, back in the 70s and 80s, he had done some subdividing in Connecticut and picked up different parcels and done stuff, and always talked about how the less competition and how easier it was, and how much, what he made on those deals and all of those things. And so we decided, well, let's bring vacant land back into the equation. Then it was basically brought in as a supplement. We're doing these other house things, but there's so much competition and so much regulation, and we're not really doing what we want to do with it. So let's bring vacant land in as a supplement to that, and just kind of add it in as a part of our business. And it went so well, and we saw the things that were happening. We're making good money, and we didn't break our profits the first year in vacant land, but we did very well with it, well more than we expected. And then from there, we're like, okay, if we just did that in as a little supplement part, how much more could we do if we just went and just focused on it? And so, at that point, we were like, vacant land is it. This is where we're going to spend our time, our effort, and really haven't done anything, with houses since that point.
Awesome. So yeah, you did all this time doing vacant land, and then you started coaching. So why did you start getting involved in educating others?
I really wasn't thinking about it, honestly. So basically the way we got into vacant land was my dad had the background already. And at that point, there was some like courses and stuff out there, but everything was on paper at that point. Everything was like paper binders and CDs and things like that. And so because of that, because it was, people would buy this stuff, never use it, and then they'd stick it on eBay. And so my dad went out, and I think he bought like 3 or 4 different courses on vacant land, these hard binders and stuff like that on eBay. And so we basically had taking this stuff, and we're kind of perusing through it and seeing what's good and what's not. And then we sat down with attorneys and redeveloped things and stuff like that, because there was a lot of stuff there was a lot of good ideas and some good information and things like that, but it all needed like refinement. Mm-hmm. And so we did all of that. And on top of that, there was different land speakers and things like that were out there. And so, there was one of them that came around to our area fairly regularly. And so we were like, well, since it's right there, it makes sense to go and check this out. These events. And so we did that, and we were noticing like really good results. And so what happened was I ended up talking with somebody that I wasn't even involved in education or coaching or anything like that. But I ended up talking with somebody at one that was brand new in this, and he was like listening to me talking about it. He was saying, like, talking about our success and how we did it and how we put this together, and a much more detailed explanation than what I just gave as to what we did in that time. And he basically is like, I want you to teach me how to do this.
Okay.
And I was like, well, this program here, they offer like training and things like that. And he was like, no, he's like, I want you because you're actually doing it. He's like, it's fine that somebody like talks about it, but I can actually see it as tangible. You're doing it. And so that just kind of got the wheels churning a little bit. And I was like, wow, there's something here. You know me well enough that I like teaching. It's something I really enjoy. And so being able to add that in was very good. And then all of a sudden it was like, okay, this makes sense. And just it kind of rolled from there.
Yeah, awesome. So you've been coaching other land investors for about 8 years now, right?
Mm-hmm.
So tell me a little bit more about that, how you've been helping people.
Yeah, so that story kind of translated into getting offered a position as coaching in that other organization. And so started there, and very, very good success with different ones. A lot of those people have actually created, now have gone on in land and making 6 and 7 figure land investing businesses are coaching themselves. So I've been able over that number of time, between what happened there to personal reasons for moving on to what Ginis and I have done now, being able to still see, people having these successes at all different levels. That's the other thing that's really nice. I mean, we've seen people that are starting from nothing, that have no background in this business, and don't even know anything about real estate and don't understand anything that's, to people that are, well educated in real estate, maybe even land, that we've been able to help and take it to the next level because of that.
Awesome. So I noticed in the post that you made for this event, you wrote in there that someone dubbed you the coach's coach and the land sale king. Can you expound on that a little bit?
Yeah, so that was just something that was said in the previous, organization that I was with, one of the people there. As mentioned, anybody that's followed me for any amount of time in any level here at the the land method or well before knows different ones that I've worked with and trained and helped over the years. And so, like I said, a lot of those people went on to become coaches themselves, to have successful businesses. It's actually kind of funny. One of our current students was watching, I guess, some sort of event or stream, or I don't know what it was, honestly, but he was watching something and he took a screenshot of it. And it was like, of like this panel of people or something. And he was like, in this other thing, he's like, oh, how many of these people did you coach? And I think there were 6 people in it, and 5 out of 6 of them were former students of mine. So that, kind of turned into that I was given that intro before that intro, or that moniker, I guess, the coach's coach. And then at the same time, I was doing these different land sale things, and I was selling some properties. I was selling my own. I was selling some for other people that I was affiliated with and things like that. And I was getting good prices and it was good advertising. And when we were selling on financing, we were getting good amounts down and all of these other things. And so one of the person that I was selling for was like, man, you're like the land sale king with that. And then it kind of stuck a little bit. I think, like, even if you type in my name, like in a Google search and land sale, I mean, I think it's been used a couple times before, we're not, for speaking and things like that. So it's kind of, you'll see it out there, but not something I really use too much or at all, honestly. Myself, it came up in here a little bit, but I don't put stuff on myself like that. But I mean, being, when somebody else says it about you, it's neither one of those is a negative thing.
Yeah. And it says a lot about you too. So what's your favorite part of being an investor?
I would say probably the freedom I mean, there's a lot of different things that I like. Obviously, I mean, the ability to not have to work a normal job, not have to answer to somebody, all that. So all that freedom part of it. I mean, my wife and I, as you know, are involved in volunteer work and devote 50 hours a month in that. So we have the freedom to be able to do that while still making good money. We don't have any kids, so we like to travel. We have the freedom to do that. So all of these different things, it just lets you set your business up the way that you want it set up. And so we're able to do that. And obviously we don't, some people say you'll be doing that in 6 months and things. That's not, I never tell people that, it's unlikely. It's good that you can, a lot of people get sales and do business and stuff, but but you put forth the time and you put forth the effort and work through it. That's what you can accomplish, and you can accomplish it way sooner than basically any other business that you would be building.
Yeah, for sure. So what's your favorite thing about being a coach?
Seeing other people do the same thing that they want. Like I said, I like teaching, and a couple of things I really like. One is like the small revelations. I just had a call this morning with somebody, and it was like eyes get big, and it's like, wow, aha. It's like, how did I miss that? So those small revelations are nice, where it's just like these minor adjustments, and all of a sudden they're like, man, that could add X to my, to my overall business. So that's big. And then obviously as they go, seeing them accomplish, what they want, having people reach out and say, hey, because of you, I no longer have a corporate American job, or, I'm full-time for this and I'm able to do X, or whatever it may be that's important to them. They say those things to us and say, hey, and it's like, and again, I mean, we just train. They are actually putting forth the effort, but they do come back and they're like, well, because of the training we received. So when we get to see the little wins and the little aha moments, and then of course, obviously, when it reaches to them getting to that point where they want to be.
Yeah, that's awesome, being able to see those things in people. So you've mentioned a couple times, especially in the group, the importance of staying relevant. Can you explain a little bit more about how you're trying to do that?
So one of the biggest things I'd say is obviously just still doing deals.
Mm-hmm.
You've got to keep doing land investing. So yes, we have an education business, and we have a coaching business and all of that. But what I've seen a lot of times, not just in land, but in real estate in general, is people just fall off. They get a following, and people say, oh, you're I should come to you and learn because you've been so, but they're not really doing deals anymore, right? They've gotten out of that business. They're focusing on their education business, where when Ginis and I started this, we were like, you've got to stay relevant. You've got to be bringing the latest information. And we've already had students that have talked to us about that, like how much, like just in the time that we've done this, how much we've just adjusted little things because it's staying relevant to what's going on now. And so, the biggest way of doing it is just doing your own stuff still. I mean, I got contracts sitting here because we're still doing deals day in and day out on properties, and people see me posting that in the group and all of that. But that's what allows you to then bring forth, what the best methods are and what the best way is to buy properties and sell properties and identify areas and reach out and follow up and all of that. Because what works in 2023 in a computer AI driven world with everything at your fingertips and all of that, as opposed to what worked just 5 years ago, is so different. And so you just got to, the principles still work, but the ways that it gets outsourced and the methods to it, the actual application does change. And so that's a huge thing that, a lot of people, I think, are missing as they're moving forward, just because things haven't necessarily been updated across it. It's so funny. Like, it goes back to what I was talking about my dad with all those courses now he bought on eBay. I mean, he literally reached out to me, and he's like, not that long ago, he's like, do you want any of this stuff? It was for all different stuff. It was for land. It was for multifamily. It was for all. He's like, do you want any of it? And it's like these binders from like early 2000s. And I'm like, no, none of it's even relevant anymore.
Right,
It's
yeah.
like, just throw it away. So that's, the key there is that relevancy moving forward.
Yeah, that's pretty funny. So what's the most important lesson that you've learned over your career?
Just do. just stay true, keep going. I think, when times are difficult or it's not working the way you want, so many people get either a few things different happen. They either get like that deer in the headlights, like they just have no clue what to do and just stop, or they get like the shiny object syndrome where it didn't work, so I'm just going to go chase this thing, and they're basically starting all over with something else that's going to take time to build up. Or people just are disillusioned because of what's put out there for so many people. They're basically told, like, because the way people work is they only show in any business, right? You see any advertising, it's always the home runs, like the huge home runs. So like, this person joined our program and made $80,000 on their first deal, or this person bought this house subject to, and they didn't put anything down, and it's this, and it's this, and and do those deals happen? Of course they do. I mean, but that's not the day-to-day operations. And so I think what happens is a lot of time people hear that stuff and they just assume, because they saw that that's going to be the best of the best. And then from there, when it doesn't work that way, those other things happen. So, just stay true, stay consistent, just plow through it, and you'll see the results as you do.
Yeah, I've heard from you so many times, consistency is key.
Yeah, I'd say it's the number one most important thing in the business.
Yeah.
I think it's true in any business, honestly. I mean, we're talking about real estate investing, but any business, you need to be consistent with what you do. I mean, if you're buying and selling stuff, anything, I know people that buy and sell like antiques, but it's like, if you're not consistent with buying them and you're not consistent with getting them out wherever your market is, well, your money's going to drive. It doesn't work. So whatever the business is, consistency is the key.
Yeah, for sure. So we're just going to take a little break from the more serious questions and ask a little more fun questions. We did this in Ginis's interview too. It was a really awesome interview. If you haven't seen it, definitely go ahead and watch that after this one as well. So, another thing, definitely make sure to ask questions. Anything that you have that you're thinking off the top of your mind, go ahead and throw it in the comments. And like I said before, we'll make sure to get all of those answered at the end of the session here. So our first question of our little game here is, what's your favorite drink?
I really only drink three things. So I drink alcohol, I drink water, and I drink coffee.
That's funny. I was like, I could guess those off the top of my head.
It's like, so I don't drink soda, I don't really drink juice, I don't drink milk or anything like that. And so out of those, my favorite is probably coffee. I love coffee. I wish I can't drink it late in the day. You've seen me. I mean, I'll drink as much as I can I think I've already had about 24 ounces today, and I'm probably not done. But if I hate the fact, it drives me nuts that my family can all drink coffee at 10 o'clock at night. It doesn't do anything to that. If I did that, I wouldn't sleep. So that's probably, obviously, my favorite out of any drink.
Mm-hmm. That's pretty funny. Hey, there's always decaf, right? I know it doesn't taste the same.
Still keeps me up. Still has too much caffeine.
Really?
That little bit still, yeah.
That's funny. All right. So what's your favorite food?
Ethnic foods. I love Indian food. It's probably my favorite. Thai food. I love Thai. Those two. Just favorite dish. Oh, I love seafood. I'm from New England, so I love seafood a lot. Favorite overall dish is probably chicken parm. Love it. It has to be done well, but yeah, my wife makes it great. Got some friends that are Italian. They make it great. So overall, cool. Probably my favorite number one dish.
Awesome. So what are some of your favorite hobbies?
I love outdoor stuff. I live in the mountains, so hiking's fun. I love to ski. That I wish I could ski more. Live in an area that allowed it more. I brew beer. That's something I enjoy a lot, and make my own, have my own system and things like that. So I am one of those people that I really just always am interested in everything. And so anything that, it's very limited stuff that I'm not interested. So I won't call it a hobby, but just almost learning in general. It's it's not that I'm great at any of these things, but I always want to take on some little project or right now I'm trying to learn another language a little bit. I mean, it's just I just like doing those type of things. I also, like I mentioned, I was in carpentry. I did carpentry I kind of went the other way and did a lot of stuff with furniture making. So I really enjoy that. I think I've made a good chunk of furniture that's in our house. So that's just, it would never work. People always say, oh, you should sell it. It's like, that's a good business. It's like, no, it's not. The amount of time I'd have to spend, I'd never recoup anything and be working for next to nothing, but I still enjoy it, for myself.
Yeah, and it actually looks good. It's not weird furniture, because sometimes homemade furniture cannot look so great, but his actually looks good, trust me. All right. So you mentioned before that you guys like to travel a lot. What's your most favorite place that you've ever traveled to?
Probably Israel. I the history there is insane. In such a small area, how much stuff is. I like Bible history. So I've been to a lot of different lands that follow like Turkey and Greece and Italy and stuff like that. And they all have it, but Israel is just like thousands of years of that history. And when you hear the different stuff of what happened, back then and how it lined up there, it was amazing. So that was probably, and just, it wasn't just that. I mean, it's also the land in general, just gorgeous. I mean, from the sea to the mountains to all the fruit and stuff. I can't believe how much stuff grows there naturally. I mean, it's crazy. So beside the history, just the beauty of that area was mind-boggling to us. In fact, it's one of the areas we're kind of people that say we don't really go to places more than once. It's like there's so much in the world to see. That is the one that we've said that we would like make the exception and like go back and like do it all over again.
That's awesome. So, you've been to a lot of places. So if you could live anywhere in the world, where would it be?
Somewhere cold and somewhere with high mountains. I grew up in New England. I skied once a week in the wintertime, at least. It was like an hour away from my home. I'd honestly love to be able to do it even more than that. I mean, just maybe in the evening or something. So somewhere near a mountain, somewhere cold. We've actually talked about living out west, Utah or Idaho or something like that. Canada, I love Canada too. The Canadian Rockies are gorgeous. Alaska. So I'm kind of opposite of most people. I like the cold. I like the snow. I'm not a person that really enjoys the South. I don't like the beach, things like that. I haven't explored them extensively, but I'm guessing, maybe like the Alps and like Switzerland or France or something like that. Italy would be pretty amazing too.
Yeah, you'll have to take a trip there soon to find out if that would be something you'd
We've
like.
been there, just the southern parts, and not in the winter time either. So I'd love to go skiing there someday.
Awesome. So I see all the time that, and probably other people here too, see all the time that you post a lot about sports on your Facebook page, or your main one. What's your favorite sports team?
That's just to get engagement because it's a topic that people love, right?
Yeah.
So baseball, I'm a Cincinnati Reds, Baltimore Orioles fan. I love big Patriots fan, big Bruins fan. So my teams, other than the Patriots, haven't really paid out so well for me as far as seeing victories, too much. But those are my big teams.
Interesting. All right. So I'm going to take this question as two parts. What is your favorite color?
Yellow.
All right. And what do you think that says about you?
That I'm bright. I mean, I think it fits my energy and my, I don't know. I like bright colors. I like yellow. I like bright orange a lot too. So I like bright colors. So
that's funny. I thought you were going to say bright orange. I didn't expect the bright yellow. That makes sense though. All right. So what's your favorite type of music?
I pretty much like any music. I like rock, punk, grunge. I like new country music. I don't like pop music. I don't like hip hop. Pop, I just don't understand. We've talked about that. I just don't get the attraction to it. Never have. Going back to the 80s. And hip hop, I get the attraction. It's just not my thing.
Gotcha. All right. So how about your wife? Where did you meet her and how long have you been together?
So we met in 2011. It's kind of a funny story. I'm not going to give the full version, but basically we had a mutual friend that was trying to set us up, and both of us just kept ignoring her, and finally, unbeknownst to the other, gave in right around the same time. And That's so and it was quick after that. We met in August 2011 and we're married in April 2012.
Oh wow. So yeah, how long have you been together? So that's 11 years, right? or am I doing
Yeah,
my
it'll
math
be
right?
11 and
11.
I mean it'll be 12 well, I guess together, I mean, so we met, it's right at 12 now.
Okay, awesome. So what do you enjoy doing in your downtime?
Like I said earlier, I like to uh pretty much learn anything. So anything that just keeps me busy. I am not a sit around. Other than watching sports, I don't sit around much and do nothing. I don't. I'm not big into normal pop culture. So like the music and the movies and all that TV shows, all that stuff that's pretty popular
Mhm.
to me. So I like to read a lot. You guys see a lot of stuff that I post, at least as far as business books, as far as stuff that I like with that. I like, I enjoy that. I enjoy just going out, going out. We like to brew hop. I like to brew beer,
Mhm.
and we live in an area with a lot of it, so we do that kind of stuff. And obviously, we talk about traveling and things like that. So really, anything that keeps me busy and just kind of enjoying whatever is out there. There's just so much different stuff that we find appealing, and we just kind of mix it all up.
Yeah, awesome. So I saw this question on the questions that we prepared for you, and I'm really excited to hear the answer to this one because I thought it was a really funny question. What is an insult you received that you're proud of?
So I'd say two different things. One of them kind of goes along with what I just talked about, is that people all the time tell me you don't like anything normal. Like, and I think it aggravates some people. Like, because they'll be like, ask us to do something. I'm like, I don't want to. It's like, I don't. And to me, I don't care because it's like, I don't want to like sound negative towards anybody, but I think the reason so much stuff is normal is because it's just pushed in our face so much. And it's like, it's just there. And so people just give in. And then all of a sudden it's like they, without even really taking the time to think about it, they just like it. And so I've always been one that just kind of thinks outside the box. And the reason I don't take it as an insult is because it's like, well, one, I'm not following the crowd. And two, it's like, I think it helps give me, to me, it's like, I'm just thinking normal. To me, it's normal because that's the way I've always been. But to others, I know it doesn't look that way, but it does help me get a different perspective. And I know in other areas of life that I've talked to people on, whatever it may be, just helping friends through different things that they're facing, or family, or whether it be business or whatever it is, it gives me that different perspective. And people always say at that point, then they start to appreciate it.
Mm.
They're like, I never thought of it that way, or man, you look at it differently, or how did you even come up with that? And so that helps. And then the other one that happens a lot that I get is that some people gripe about it, especially if they're closer with us, is that I say no too much. They're always like, you just say no. You don't have a problem saying no to anything. And it's like, doesn't it bother you? And my line that I tell people all the time is I unapologetically say no. I really don't care.
That's
It's
a
like, if
really
it
good
doesn't,
quality to have.
it's funny because a lot of people hate it. My wife loves it. Like, one of the things she tells me all the time is she's like, I wish other people that we did stuff with could say no. She's like, I love the fact that you have no problem saying no. And it's like, if it doesn't fit and if it's not right, and even if you don't want to do it, like for that time frame, I'm not saying sometimes you got to extend yourself and do things you don't want to do, right? For the
Mhm.
good of others or things like that. But if it doesn't fit a certain way, it doesn't make, then say no. You don't have to be a crowd pleaser. And so many people out there
Mhm.
just want to please everybody all the time and say it. So it's funny. They realize that that's what they're doing, and they don't want to be like that. But then when you go the opposite way and you're like, no, then they're like, why do you say no so much? It's like, you wish you could, but then you get mad at me for doing it.
Yeah, that's pretty funny. So, if you could go back and give your 18-year-old self one piece of advice, what would it be?
Well, that was a tough point in life.
Mhm.
So I would say, I guess one, just telling myself it'd be okay. And two, just telling myself to stay true, because at that point in life, your emotions are already playing games with you, right? And what your mind is telling you and what you're weighing out in your mind compared to what your heart is saying and what your emotions are saying and all that, you just get pulled in different. You add the stuff that I talked about earlier on top of it, makes it even worse. And
Mhm.
so, if I could have just told myself, what you're thinking is good, stay true to it, follow through, I think I could have avoided a lot of issues. And that went past 18, honestly. I mean, I think a lot of people until probably their mid-20s are still fighting with that, and just being able to tell yourself, which let your brain win more than your heart and your emotions and these other things.
Yeah, that's definitely some really, really good advice, especially for young people. So kind of going back into more of the business things. Again, if you have any questions, make sure to put them in the chat and we'll answer them. But how did you feel, or how do you feel about the current real estate market?
It's an interesting market because everything that they're trying to do to slow down buying isn't really happening. It is, but it isn't working at the levels that they want. I mean, interest rates are crazy and people are still buying, and prices are still going up in a lot of areas, or just kind of staying. They're not dropping. Some are dropping, but mostly it's not. So it's a very interesting market because of that. Now, where we're at, I've talked about this. I didn't expect it to stay like this as long as it did. But I did talk about this, I think, a year ago now, right, where I was saying we're going into a very good investing market because prices are still high and people are still wanting to buy, but sellers are nervous because they're seeing all of these signs. And so that's worked out. We took advantage of that. You know, I've talked about some of the deals that we've done over the last couple of years or last couple of months, I'm sorry. And you're seeing those numbers and how that worked out because of that. And so I do think it's going to tail off. Where it's going to go, I don't know. It's hard to know that because you got an election coming up and things that always has a fluctuation on stuff. And a lot of times it boosts it. So it may be after the election where it really drops off. I mean, the bottom line is it has to move. It has to drop because there's no way it can stay at this level. It can't be sustained from people out there. People can't afford, first-time home buyers can't afford $400,000 homes. Right. You know, the average price of whatever it is, $700,000, something like that. I mean, people can't afford that. So that has to tail off. We're going to see that in land as well. But the good thing is, obviously, like I've said before, when the markets go down, it creates a whole lot more buying opportunities.
Yeah, definitely. So you said before, you've been in this business a really long time. You have coached a lot of people and you were pretty successful at coaching those people. What made you leave that organization and move into creating your own business with Ginis together?
Well, I was actually just going to be done. I had kind of been, I just didn't like, I'm not going to talk about that like details, but I just really didn't like the way a couple of things had happened and were going down. And I had a perfect opportunity to kind of move on. I was buying a house and I was focusing on that and I was running my business and I didn't want to overcomplicate my life. So it was like, this is the perfect time to just peaceably and just move on. And so I did that and I kind of stayed stagnant for, I don't know, a couple of years or something like that. And people were just kept asking me like, hey, you left. I really wanted to work with you. You were the person, you were the coach, you were this. So I kept hearing that and sorry for a while. And then I guess Ginis was hearing the same stuff. And like he mentioned in his interview, I left before he did. And so then he left and he wasn't doing anything for a little bit and he was getting the same messages. And then finally he just reached out to me one day and he asked me if I was getting the same stuff he did. Cause he heard I was, cause he was, he had known that people were saying they still wanted to work with me. And so he said, well, why don't we put something together? And it's kind of transformed and morphed from that point, because when that started, as you know, and we're there, I mean, it was basically just, okay, you want to work with us, we'll train you. Yeah. There was no course, there was no other information, nothing like that. It was just straight on group, right? We had the group coaching calls, like, that we did weekly for a few hours. And we basically took you A to Z, right? We took you through the business and we had all these people that like wanted it in. And so that's kind of how it's the way I got into coaching originally was kind of just by circumstance and accident, not looking for it. The way this business started, it was out of a demand, right? The first time it was because somebody had asked. And so it just kind of transformed into that because of it. The way this business started was the same thing. People had remembered me. They had a demand. They wanted to work with me. And so we just did, it lined itself up for that to happen.
Yeah. So how did you and Ginis meet? You said you've known each other for a while.
Yeah, so I was coaching in that other organization, and actually, no, he was there first. I'm sorry. So he was doing sales in that other organization, and that's around the time that I got approached by that individual saying, "I want to learn directly from you." We were sharing at an event, we were sharing our successes, got asked if I was interested in coaching, took on some stuff. And so I had known him. In fact, I never forget the story. And I don't want to sound cocky. I hope it doesn't come off this way, but I remember Ginis sitting with me, and he could testify about it. But it was like, he was sitting with me and he's trying to sell me coaching. And this is right around the time, probably like just maybe 6 months before like I started teaching myself. And he's trying to sell it to me. And I'm like, I don't think I want to buy this because I feel like I've already done more and know more than the people that you're trying to have me work with. And so he kind of laughed and like, and then sure enough, shortly after, it's like, now I am teaching and helping and everything like that, and bringing, and helping these people and all that. So we've known each other since that time.
Okay, awesome. So what is a common myth about land investing that you see people say a lot?
There's a lot. I mean, one is it's super easy. It's easier than houses, but nothing in real estate investing is super easy. If it was super easy and you could snap your fingers and use your keyboard, and let's face it, everybody in America would do it, right? So there is work involved. Some people just assume it super easy. We talked about earlier the profits that they put out there. Yes, you're going to get that, but that, making it sound like, every deal you're going to, that doesn't work that way. And then that it works anywhere. Does it work in every state? Sure. Does it work in every area? Of course not. And, so that's out there. You can work any area. No, you can't. We talk about that right from the get-go in our training. It's like, you've got to be very, we hear people all the time say, there's 50 states and 3,000 counties and pick one. And it's like, okay, well, all 3,000 of those don't work. And so, yes, those areas are out there, but you still have to be smart with it. And so I think there's a lot of things that are said to help people or to kind of drag people in and things like that. And people get those ideas in their heads. And that's one of the things that we try to overcome very quickly. Like, hey, let's just get you in the right mindset, which is a big thing of what coaching is, honestly. Coaching is helping you with deals, right? And helping you with the finding it and doing it. But it's also getting your mind in the right place, because as opposed to, I'm going to be a real estate investor and I'm going to be a millionaire in 2 years, getting people in the right frame of mind with everything.
Mm-hmm. So why do you believe that the Land Method is the best land education company out there?
Well, I don't think anybody would create one and say that it's not the best, right? But relevancy is huge. I can't speak for all of them. I know what some of them are doing and things like that. But the updates we update. How many times have we updated already just to like give or add-ons or things that just make sense? We had a student that, when we added the SMS in and the modules, the word he called it was game changing, right? He says, you guys bring game changing information. So there's that, the relevancy part. And one of the things I think that's a huge thing for us that we see is we've had a handful. I don't know the exact number, but students that have come to us are students that went through other programs, other coaching, not just, some have bought courses and they said, well, it didn't really help me. It wasn't informative enough. Or others say, I went through so-and-so's coaching program or mentorship or whatever they call it in their business, these different ones. And they're like, it just left me wanting something. And so they come and they've, worked with us. And then they're like, wow, this was big, big difference. One guy, you could read, I think he left in our Facebook group, he made the post about it. So it's out there. Yeah. And he came from another one, went through an entire coaching thing. And he said, it was decent. I made money. It was okay. He's like, but nothing like this. He's like this. And then he wrote this huge. So, so I do feel it's the best, but obviously having people, I think the biggest thing is it just student success from the get-go. We've had those students that have never gone anywhere else and have done well. But when students that have come from other areas and are looking to up their game and didn't get that help, and then all of a sudden tell us that we gave that to them, that to me is like the proudest pat on the back, awesome moment.
So the land method is coming up on about 3 years in business. It's next month. How do you feel it's gone so far?
It's been interesting, I'll say that. It's been good, but it's a totally different business than I was expecting. And part of that is because of the way we chose to run it. I kind of thought of it more like a set it and forget it business, because that's the way a lot of these things are, right? They're out there and they have a course, they have a program, and it's the same information recycled over and over and over. And I was thinking, well, I'm going to do this stuff once and I'm never going to have to do it again. And we're going to sell this information and people are going to come and work with us. And then your conscience starts to bug you a little bit in there and you're like, yeah, you can't really say this anymore, or this is where and so there's been a lot of like just changes and updates and bringing forth new information, giving away different and, extra information, all of these different things that, I wasn't necessarily expecting, just because I had never done it before on that level, where I was like, okay, this needs to be incorporated so that everybody can get the results that they're actually, paying for and are expecting to see.
Yeah, and a lot of different things. You have to be out there relevant all the time so people can find you as well. Setting and forgetting would be very hard in this business. So, in your opinion, what's the most important personality trait or strength that someone would need to be a successful investor?
Some tenacity, I'd say. You just gotta follow through with things, and it's so easy to develop that and have that when the going's good, right? I sent out my first 1,000 letters, or I texted my first 1,000 people, and I got a contract. I got a property under contract for $8,000, and I sold it for $40,000, and I put it out, and it was out for 3 days, and I double closed it, and there was no hiccups, and everything worked together. That's great, and some deals are going to be like that. Don't get me wrong, we have deals like that, but then there's going to be the ones where you got to keep the follow up, and you've got to to get the deal going. We've got one going right now with a seller that's like going back and trying to keep her engaged. Same thing with buyers. All of these different things, when things aren't going great, adjusting a little bit, changing your marketing, looking at your areas better, taking it a step further than there's, I'm just mailing letters, I'm not getting a great, well, have you added in other features, all of these other things? And so, that drive behind you to like just keep going and adjust and do these different things, because it's not going to be all, easy all the time.
Rainbows and butterflies.
Yeah, exactly. That's why people feel that way. Again, I guess it's because of what they're fed and what like a lot of these trainings. But I mean, anybody that's lived life for more than the first 10 years of their life should know that's not the way life works. So why should it work in this if it doesn't work in anything else?
Yeah, definitely. So what's one lesson that you've learned that you think that everyone should learn at some point in their life?
I think what I talked about earlier, just staying true to yourself. Don't try to please other people. It's hard to do that, because people are always, and some of them matter to you, right? Are always trying to influence you. But if you try to please everybody, it just doesn't work out. And I go back to, when we were getting investing, are you sure you're going to do this? And are you making good enough money? And it's so funny. I have family members that were like, are you doing okay? Or, we're doing great. Is it? And all of a sudden it's like, they shifted to like, can you show me how to do this? It's like, I want to be involved. And so had you listened to that early on though, it's like, you'd stop, you'd go back. So be true to yourself, to what you're thinking. Don't let those emotions get involved, because you're going to be feeling a lot of different things, and then your friends and your family are going to be telling you different things. And I think that's true. I don't, I talk about it for business, but it's really true in everything in life. It goes back to what I was talking about earlier about saying no and stuff like that. It's just, you've got to make that decision. You've got to stay true to yourself. If it doesn't please the masses, if it doesn't please certain individuals, you got to take your family into account, your immediate family, and make the best decisions. But just stay true, follow through, keep it going, and that's where success comes. I was reading a book recently and he was talking about that. And he was like, it's not that nothing doesn't work. It's not the business doesn't work. It's not that advertising, if you're advertising, it doesn't, it's you that didn't work. You didn't follow it through and give it enough time to let it happen. So, stay true to yourself, keep the motivation, keep the consistency. And you hear me say all the time, shut off the noise, right? You got to just shut off everything else around you.
Yeah. That makes me think of a song. She says in the song, I'm a pathological people pleaser. And I think a lot of people relate to that song because of that lyric. But as you're saying, it's really hard to get out of that mindset and to get into the being consistent with yourself and staying true to yourself. So that's definitely something that we all need. And we all need to work on, definitely.
Yeah, and there's certain people, obviously, that, the ones you're closest with and your spouse and things like that. You want to balance that out. It's not selfishness, but at the same time, it's like, it's your life. And so who is involved in your life? Your immediate family, your spouse, your kids, things like that. So don't worry about what your cousin's telling you or your best friend's telling you. It's like, because they might be saying, well, this is that you should be doing. Well, I got to pay my bills. I got to live my life. I've been the one that has to live with the decision, not you. So
exactly.
make the decision according to that to have it be the best.
So do you have any advice for any first-time land investors?
Just do it. Stay in, keep going. You'll get results if you keep putting forth the efforts. And people talk about like, well, I don't have enough money and things like that. And it's like, well, then you got to look at what in your life's going to change to get you there. Because I love when people say, well, I don't have any money to get involved in land investment. Well, you don't need money to actually do the deals, right? You need money to market. Well, I don't have money to do that. Okay, fine. Where's your life at right now that's going to be different in 5 years if you don't change anything, that you're going to have the money to do it at that point? Do you see a big promotion or a big raise or anything like that coming up? And most people say no. So it's like, so your reasoning then is never going to work, right? You're never going to be able to do this. So it takes money to make money, right? They've always said that. And so that is 100% true. You need to invest in this. And I go back to everything before. It's don't be afraid to invest in education. Don't be afraid to invest in yourself. Don't be afraid to invest in your business. Even if it involves taking out, like, I'm not saying go hugely in debt, but we use credit cards to begin with. Even if it involves taking out a small loan, people think nothing of going to college at $100,000 a year to go get some degree that the vast majority of people never do anything with, other than, they paid hundreds of thousands of dollars for a piece of paper on their wall. Nothing else. It didn't turn into anything else because they don't even use it. So they'll do that, but then they won't follow through with simple, much cheaper options to actually create, a good business. And they have all these different reasons for doing it. So jump in, get the help you need, figure it out. It's still a much better and viable opportunity than than a lot of what's out there. And it's a much cheaper way of doing it. But it's just the mindset. Again, it goes back to your thinking, right? And a lot of that's around what's around, because what are we conditioned to do by our parents and our friends and the government and and high school counselor, everybody is go get your education, right? Nobody says start a business. It's go get your education. Yeah. And then you never do anything with it. Whereas, in other countries, it's hilarious. It's obviously the other way. It's like, go get some extra education, go get a trade, go learn how to do something, get further education in this specific thing and start a business. And then people do well. So again, shut off that other stuff around you if you're looking at getting involved in this, and focus on it to actually get the results that you want. And it's funny because 4 years of your life gone, right? With school. And if you spent that building this, you'd have an amazing business.
For sure. Yeah. So some key points that I picked out was just do it, be consistent, stay true to yourself. Those are some really good things that first time.
Shut off the noise.
Yeah, shut off the noise. That's the other one. All right. So thank you so much, Jonathan, for being here today with us, giving us some insight into your life and to how this business is going. I know I've definitely learned some things about you, and I'm sure everyone else did too, but we're not done yet. We still have some more questions from the viewers. So I'll start asking you some of those now. So the first one we have here, and as we go, if you guys have any more questions, now's the time. Start dropping them in the chat so we can answer them. So the first one is, do we need a relationship? Yeah, I'm just going to read the question as it is. But it says, do we need a relationship real estate license for flipping land? This person, yeah, that's the question. Sorry.
I'm guessing they put relationship instead of real. So
Yeah, real estate. Yeah.
yeah, do we need a real estate license? No, you don't need a real estate license. I have a real estate license, but honestly, the state that my real estate license is in is a state that I previously lived in, and I've just kept it active because that state is so difficult to get a real estate license in, the test and everything. But I don't even do deals there anymore, or very rarely. The states that I'm working in, I don't have a real estate license, so absolutely not, because it's you're a principal in the deal if you're buying or selling, and so you don't need nobody needs a real estate license for any form of real estate if they're a principal in the transaction.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Okay, so our next question is, where do you see more land deals? The northern part or southern part of the US, or are both equal?
Yeah, there's no difference. I mean, obviously the southern part is a little bit more competitive. Why? Because everybody, like I said earlier, everybody's opposite of me. They want to be in the warm weather. So when you think of states that you just think of people moving to, it's Florida, Texas, Arizona, things like that. So they're all in the south. But there's not more land there. And there's still tons of people that are, interested in moving to Montana and Idaho and, New England. And New England's not exactly the easiest place to work because of the way they're set up. You can, but still plenty of people that are moving to those areas. So, there's not a difference between the two.
Yeah, for sure. So next one says, how does one start, or what do I need to do first to start?
So we have training. I don't know if that's what they're asking about. We have a course that can help you. We can have somebody reach out and talk to you about that. It kind of will give you all the information that you need to go from start to finish, all the documents, all of that. So you can call us, 980-357-4545. I think it's down below here somewhere. I think it says that information as well if you want to talk about that, and we can go through different options that are there to help you. But if you've already got something, obviously it's a matter of marketing. I mean, picking an area is the first step, and then marketing to that area and getting the list, and that's how you obviously get going. Because I've given the illustration before of the funnel, right? You got to have stuff coming in the top, which is through picking areas and marketing in order to get any business after that.
Yeah. Okay, so the next one says, when you get a lead from a neutral letter, do you try to talk to the seller on the phone before sending them an offer, or do you just send them an offer?
Different schools of thoughts there. So I think even with me and Ginis, we handle it a little bit differently. And so there's nothing wrong with either one. I don't. I have a call center. It goes in, they handle it. So they're being talked to. The person's being talked to, just not by us. So they're being talked to. They're giving information. They're having that conversation with them, and then they pass that along to us, and we make the offer. I know Ginis was using a voicemail, and then sometimes he'll turn that off and he'll pick up the phone himself, and he's talking to people. So what I tell people is with that is there's nothing wrong with talking to people. There's nothing wrong with using the voicemail. There's nothing wrong with doing those things, especially in the market that we're currently in, because it's hotter. There's lower response rates and things like that. But as you really start going with this business, as you're growing and as the market shifts and response rates start going back, and you mail 1,000 letters and all of a sudden you're getting 100+ phone calls a week, that takes away that ability, right, to be able to do that. So that goes along. We were talking about before about being relevant and stuff. We just adjust with the circumstances of what's going on.
So our next question is from Cedric. He says, I wanted to know, do you prefer direct mail, cold calling, text, etc. for marketing? Thanks so much for this awesome content. Well, thank you for asking some questions.
All the above. All right. That's one of the things that we've said is you don't need to limit yourself to a certain thing. And that's one of the things that we've changed, right? So we mail, we text. We've talked about having some cold call, and we haven't done that as like a follow-up. I would never do it myself, but obviously there's VAs out there that can do that. Even AI is starting to do it now. It's kind of crazy what's going on, but I mean, so that's something that you could add in. Obviously, you got to look at the expense too. Texting is the cheapest. Mm-hmm. And so a lot of people, we recommend start there because you can do that the cheapest. Cold calling is probably gonna be the most expensive. So, you can look at it according to that and figure it out. Obviously, Texting's a little bit more hands-on. Mailing letters is nothing, right? You can outsource that, or even it's just a matter of minutes. So you got to kind of look at all the circumstances. The biggest thing is start somewhere, and then to up your better results, add the other things in as a follow-up, to these potential leads, or to these potential sellers that are leads.
Yeah. So he also asked, what amount of marketing capital should a newbie have to set aside for their first deal?
So marketing capital and deals are not the same thing. What the deal can be done through transactional funding. So you don't need to have any marketing capital aside to actually buy the property. You do need obviously capital to market, to get the deals. And so that, it really depends on what your strategy is going to be. Ginis made some videos. They're in the group going over just using, he does multiple marketing techniques, but he was doing just text. And, it was basically right around $1,000 a month that he was spending for that. And he showed the deals in 3 months. He made $60,000. He had a bunch of others under contract from that. And so that kind of gives you an idea of what you can do with just texting. Obviously, if you add letters into the mix, or if you're doing letters instead, that, brings up the cost a little bit. But, that $1,000 a month starting point is a good place to look at, and upping it from there. But $1,000 a month, at least it gives you can do just texting at that point. You can get some deals and you can get some leads in, and then you can kind of shift a little bit using some direct mail and other things as well.
Yeah, awesome. So we have one question left that we have in the comments here. So we'll just go ahead and answer this one. And now is the time. If you have any more questions, put them in there now so that we can get to them. All right. Our last question as of now is, for a first timer, do you recommend getting a real estate license just for the education?
No, real estate education stinks. I'm going to tell you straight that. I mean, the real estate schools, and it's hilarious. You go to these real estate schools and literally they tell you, because I've done it 3 times, they tell you if you're going to forget, or you need to forget 90% of what we're teaching you when you're done, because what they teach you is just legal. It's just laws. It's just all this, and it's nothing. They don't teach you how to list a property. They don't teach you, how to market. They don't teach you how to do any of the stuff that's actually part of the business. And their answer is always, well, your broker will teach you that. So, I did it twice as a salesperson and then as a broker's license after going through these schools. And every time, literally true, it's like all this stuff that you just never use. And it's hilarious because they always talk about all these laws. They spend all this time on laws, but then they tell you, well, don't deviate from the contracts. Don't give advice. If anybody asks a question about what this means, the answer is go talk to an attorney. So it's like, so you're giving me all this information that I can't even share anyway. That's basically what you're saying. So no, don't go to real estate school if that's your purpose, is for education only. If you want the license, that's up to you. Is it necessary to do the business? Not at all. Where it could come in handy, and I've known some people have done well, is if they're working in one very specific area. Some people use it because obviously you can get MLS access and it covers a number of areas. And if you're going to be working there, it's a pretty minor cost, and you can list the properties yourself, and we just flat fee them, but you can do that. But generally speaking, if you're going for education, or if you're going for any other reason than what I just said, it's really not necessary at all in this business.
All right. We do have one more question that we just got. They said, do you ever get deals from people that originally said they want an unrealistically high price?
All the time. My favorite one that I still tell from years ago now was a guy was duped by some ridiculous developer. And he was like, those properties were worth nothing. I mean, and this guy was like, we're going to put this community on it. So he said, I need to get back what I put into it. He said $50,000 is what he told me I needed to get back for it. He's like, the property was worth like $4 or $5 grand. I offered him $500 and he took it.
Oh my goodness.
So I guess he's going to be redlining on his taxes till the day he dies, but as a loss, but it's just, people give numbers all the time. We just had somebody that did the exact same thing. Well, it's nowhere near what we said we wanted, and we're taking a huge loss, but I'm sick of putting money into this pit. Mm-hmm. Taxes, HOAs. So they're like, we'll move forward with you. happens all the time. I've had people, we have a contract that was sitting over here. We just closed on, I think. Yeah. About 2 weeks ago, week ago. I don't know. That lady was told us straight up she was offended by our offer. We hadn't got to the point of making another offer to her. We just kind of were letting it sit. And then maybe 6-8 weeks later, she came back to us and was like, I've decided to take your offer. She's like, can you send me an updated one? So that is a very, very, very common thing that happens across the board. I mean, so that's why we tell everybody, make offers to everybody, regardless of what they say, unless they're very, very firm. If they're like, do not under any circumstance contact me unless you're going to give me $20,000 and I'm going to give them $3,000. Some people still do. I don't in that case. But other than that, if they're like, I want 20 grand or I'd like 20 grand or I need to see 20 grand, here's your $3,000 offer, and see what happens.
Yep. All right. So that's all the questions that we have for us today. Thank you guys for all joining us and for this interview with Jonathan. And I guess we'll see you again on another Crushing Land episode.
See everybody. Thanks for joining.
See ya.